In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the QRD Maestro S3 wireless leverless controller. This arcade fight stick is one of the first of its kind to offer the leverless controls in a wireless format. Is this the perfect controller for home arcade enthusiasts looking to play arcade fighting games on their Switch or PC? Hello YouTube, it's me, it's Michael B. Thank you so much for watching the video, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at another product from QRD. This time, it's the Maestro S3 wireless leverless arcade fighting stick. So I'm a big fan of QRD's products. They already sent me out a Switch controller that was excellent. Very excited to check out this fight stick. Now for me, I'm not the biggest fighting game guy, and this is the first time I'm ever going to be trying a leverless fight stick, so we'll see how that goes. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you so much everybody for checking out the video. Guys, I always appreciate your support. If this is your first time to the channel, you like what you see, go ahead, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, all that YouTube jazz. So here we have the QRD Maestro S3 wireless fighting game controller. That's not really true. It's an arcade fight stick, wireless leverless, which actually isn't on the box. As you can see, it's for PS4, PS3, Xbox 360, Switch, and Android iOS. It also does work with PC, but that's a little bit harder to get into. Anyways, here's a look at the box. Nothing too fancy, just a generic controller box. So let's take a look at what's included. We're going to open this up. It's a little complicated. There's a lever there on the bottom. So once you get that up and open, we can lift up the top. The controller is packaged very nicely. It comes in a nice protective film. We're going to pull that out, and you'll notice it's very light. It doesn't have a lot of weight to it, and of course there's absolutely stickers over every freaking button, which we'll get into in a little bit. These stickers are actually super annoying, but I guess they're trying to cover the sheen of the controller. A little unnecessary in my opinion. Really unnecessary, actually, but, you know, good for them to try to cover up and protect what they have. So also in the box, you're going to find your little instruction manual. You're going to want to hold on to this because it's important to learn how to configure your controller, configure your buttons, learn how the LED color for the buttons work, how to get it working with different consoles. On top of that, we've also got a little piece of plastic which threw me for a loop at first. I didn't know what exactly it was, but this is actually a little attachment piece where you can attach it to the controller and plug a phone, basically set up a phone on the controller. Last but not least, you got a USB-C charging cable. It's for charging, but it's also for connecting the consoles. This is going to be your best friend when trying to play games that require an Xbox connection. And guys, that's everything in the box. So I mentioned these stickers on the buttons, and I will say this is one of the low points of getting this arcade fight stick because you have to take every single one of them off, and they are an absolute pain in the ass. They leave a little residue behind. I know they're trying to keep the buttons nice and clean looking, but what a pain to get them off. And you'll see here, as I'm pulling one of them off, I actually pull the button off the little control stick. That's how irritating it is. And you have to do this for every single button on the arcade fight stick. So the fight stick itself, like I said, is pretty light. The buttons feel okay. I'm going to be honest with you, they're super mushy, even more mushy than an arcade 1-up. The LED lights, however, are very, very cool. I'm just playing around with a little bit here before I actually plugged it into anything. And yeah, it's very sharp looking. So like I mentioned earlier, this little plastic attachment here is actually a connector piece that goes on just above the USB-C connector, and it actually is a little attachment for you to put your phone into, so you can actually put your favorite mobile device. I'm using an iPhone 13 Max, I think it is, or Pro. I don't know what it is. But anyways, I connect it there. You can see my two kids, and then I'm ready to get down and do some fighting in this contained arcade. Like I mentioned, there is the USB-C attachment port where you're going to plug in your cable. This is really super important here, not just for charging the wireless controller with really good battery life, I may add. I had a good experience with it, but this is also instrumental for hooking this up to Xbox and PC devices because the Xbox controls only work when directly connected. So with the controller itself, I mentioned that there's different LED lighting configurations you go into. In order to modify these, you're going to hold down the L3 and R3 buttons for 2 seconds to switch between modes or turn the LED light buttons off. Lots of colorful features. I'll leave it on the color strobing. That's the one I always go with. Now, I also mentioned in order to connect it to a PC, what you're going to have to do is hold the Option and Share button for 3 seconds, and that'll switch back and forth between D input and X input. X input you need to work with a PC. First up, we're going to try connecting this to the Switch. I initially had some issue trying to get this connected wirelessly. It was instrumental that I actually had to plug it into the Switch using the USB-C connection in order to do the initial setup, but once that was done, anytime I turned on my Switch and turned on this controller, it would automatically connect wirelessly. Now, the Nintendo Switch is not my preferred console for playing fighting games. In fact, I only have one fighting game for the system, albeit it's a pretty good one, Ultra Street Fighter 2, The Final Challengers. So let's plug that into the Switch and use this leverless wireless fight stick to see how it works out. Now, I'm not the biggest fighting game fan. I've never used a leverless controller before. It's not something I needed, but I know more professional players use it. Here, I was a little dubious, so I went with a character that's relatively easy to control and kind of my cheat character when playing Street Fighter 2, E Honda, and I gotta say, I actually had a pretty good experience with it. It's super easy with E Honda because you just mash the punch button to do the 100-hand slap, but I was also able to do several of his headbutt moves. I started moving around good, and I got a pretty good win-loss record in Ultra Street Fighter 2 using the wireless leverless control panel. As for the control panel itself, again, I'm not a fighting game expert, so I don't know what the specifics are and quality on using these are, but I will tell you this, I found the buttons to be a bit mushy. Like, if you complain about arcade 1-up buttons, you're probably not going to love these. There was no clickiness or real feel. It was kind of mushy, but they all work and they all responded really well with the wireless controller. There was no input delay. Another weird thing, and I guess you can adjust the controls, but on the D-pad, the directions up and down almost seem to be backwards. That button in the middle up top that's controlled by my middle finger is actually the down button, while the up button is the big button on the bottom, which seems almost, backwards to me, but it is what it is. And like I said, I had a pretty good experience playing Ultra Street Fighter 2. I could pull off all my big moves with Honda, had some fun, beat the crap out of some other Street Fighter characters. I forgot actually how much I really enjoyed Ultra Street Fighter 2. Maybe this is something I'll continue playing, play a little online, and show people my new Pro controller while they whoop the shit out of me. But if I play Z Honda, I might stand a chance. Anyways, controller worked good, no input delay, everything worked like it should. Buttons, while mushy, were super responsive. I was happy with my experience. So then last but not least, I wanted to try this out with some fighting games on my PC, which is mainly the console or device I use most for playing fighting games. So I played some Mortal Kombat 1, and after setting the control pad up or arcade fight stick up to work with the X input controls, which basically registered as an Xbox controller, I was off to the races and I was playing in no time. The controller, again, worked great. The only downside of this is when using the X input, you have to be hardwired into the device. The D controls, like switch controls, all work fantastically with wireless, but the X controls actually require a plugged-in connection. So if you are buying this for use with Steam and on your PC and you're looking to use an X input, keep in mind it's not going to be wireless in that capacity. So anyways, guys, that's my quick look at the QRD wireless, leverless, arcade fight stick, really controller, but it's an arcade fight stick. Anyways, I had a lot of fun with this. I'm not the biggest fighting game guy. I've never tried a leverless controller before, so there definitely was a level of adjustment for me getting used to it. I will say the buttons were kind of mushy. The control panel's a little bit light, and it did rock a little bit because I'm a palm user on my arcade control sticks. So, you know, keep that in mind when you're looking at it. This is for sale on their website for $234.35 Canadian. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can check it out for yourself if you're interested. In terms of a quality standpoint, I don't really know what these leverless control panels go for, so keep that in mind, you know, comparative when you're making your purchasing decision. The other thing I want to talk about is the button quality and stuff like that. For me, the mushiness, it's not that big of a deal, but I mean, if you're a hardcore fighting game person who's looking for a leverless controller, you may want to take that into consideration. There's also the point that while this is wireless, it's only wireless for the D input. If you plan on using the X input, keep in mind that you are going to have to be hardwired, so the wireless portion doesn't really work for that. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of the QRD wireless leverless arcade fight stick? Is this something you're interested in? And would you pick this up to play fighting games either on your Switch, PC, or other consoles? Anyways, guys, once again, thank you so very much for watching. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.